Someone can ignore you tonight and still sleep peacefully while you spend 6 hours wondering what you did wrong. Think about how much power that gives them. One person changes their behavior, and suddenly your mood, confidence, sleep, and peace change with it. Buddhism teaches you to take that power back, not by becoming cold, but by becoming detached from expectations. When you stop needing people to choose you, understand you, praise you, or stay with you, something powerful happens. You can still care deeply, but nobody gets to control the peace inside your mind. 1. Stop writing invisible contracts for other people. One of the biggest causes of disappointment is expecting people to repay everything you give. You help someone and expect help later. You stay loyal and expect the same loyalty. You listen to their problems and believe they should always listen to yours. But often, these agreements exist only in your mind. Buddhism teaches you to give because it reflects who you are, not because you expect something back. Be kind because kindness is part of your character. Be loyal because you value loyalty. Some people will appreciate you and return your effort, while others will not. You cannot control their response. This does not mean allowing people to use you. Keep your boundaries and notice their behavior, but stop keeping score. Their actions reveal their character, while your actions reveal yours. When you stop expecting repayment from everyone, you protect yourself from unnecessary disappointment. 2. Appreciate people without possessing them. Attachment becomes painful when appreciation turns into control. You enjoy someone's presence, support, or love, and slowly you begin thinking they must always stay the same and always stay close to you. But Buddhism teaches that everything changes. People change, feelings change, and relationships can change too. You can care deeply about someone without making them responsible for your peace. Appreciate them while they are in your life, but do not try to control their choices or force them to stay. Love becomes healthier when you give people space instead of holding them too tightly. Detachment does not mean becoming cold or uncaring. It means understanding that nothing belongs to us forever. Appreciate people, enjoy the connection, and be grateful for the good moments, but do not lose yourself trying to keep someone who wants to change or leave. 3. Never hand someone else the job of keeping you happy. One of the easiest ways to lose your peace is to make another person responsible for your happiness. You wait for their message to feel important, their attention to feel loved, their praise to feel confident, and their presence to feel complete. Then, when they become distant, busy, cold, or simply change, your whole mood begins to change with them. Buddhism teaches that happiness built only on other people will always feel unstable because people are always changing. Someone may care deeply about you today and need distance tomorrow. Someone may praise you one day and criticize you the next. If your happiness depends completely on how others treat you, then your peace is always in someone else's hands. This does not mean relationships are unimportant. Love, friendship, and connection can make life beautiful, but they should add to your happiness, not become the only reason you have it. Learn to enjoy your own company. Spend time doing things that make your mind calmer and your life stronger. Read, walk, meditate, learn something new, take care of your health, and build goals that belong to you. The more you create happiness within yourself, the less desperate you become for attention and approval. You can still love people deeply, but you no longer need them to constantly prove your worth. You can enjoy their presence without fearing every moment of distance. Real peace begins when you stop saying, "Make me happy," and start asking, "How can I create a peaceful life within myself?" When your happiness comes from within, other people can add joy to your life, but they can no longer control it. 4. Accept people according to their patterns, not your hopes. One of the hardest things to accept is that people often show us who they are long before we are ready to believe them. Someone keeps breaking promises, but you keep trusting the next promise. Someone disappears whenever you need support, but you keep hoping they will be different next time. Someone only contacts you when they need something, yet you keep telling yourself that maybe they truly care. This is where hope can slowly become a source of pain. Buddhism teaches us to see reality clearly instead of seeing only what we wish were true. Words can sound beautiful, but patterns reveal much more. A person may say they respect you, but if they repeatedly ignore your boundaries, their actions are telling you something important. A person may say they care, but if they only appear when it benefits them, you should pay attention to that pattern. This does not mean you should judge people harshly or become suspicious of everyone. It means you should stop fighting against what their behavior keeps showing you. You do not need to hate someone just because they cannot give you what you hoped for. You can accept them as they are and then decide how much space they should have in your life. Sometimes peace begins when you stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and start saying, "This is what they keep showing me." That small change can protect you from repeating the same disappointment again and again. You stop expecting deep loyalty from someone who has repeatedly been unreliable. You stop expecting honesty from someone who continues to hide the truth. You stop expecting emotional support from someone who has shown that they are not able or willing to give it. Acceptance does not mean allowing bad behavior. You can understand someone and still create distance. You can forgive someone and still keep a boundary. You can wish someone well and still decide that they are not healthy for your life. Buddhism teaches compassion, but compassion should also include wisdom. The more clearly you see people, the less you suffer from unrealistic expectations. Stop falling in love with someone's potential while ignoring their repeated behavior. Pay attention to consistency, not promises. Let people show you who they are and believe the pattern when it appears again and again. When you accept people according to their actions, you become calmer because you stop waiting for them to become the version you created in your mind. You may still hope they grow, change, and become better, but your peace no longer depends on that happening. That is detachment, seeing reality clearly, accepting what you cannot control, and choosing what protects your peace. 5. Do good without needing recognition. One of the hidden reasons people become disappointed is because they want their goodness to be noticed. You help someone and hope they remember it. You support people and expect appreciation. You work hard and want others to see your effort. You improve yourself and secretly hope the people who doubted you will finally admit that they were wrong. There is nothing wrong with enjoying appreciation, but problems begin when your peace depends on receiving it. Buddhism teaches us to act with good intention without becoming attached to praise. If you do something kind, let the kindness itself be enough. If you support someone, do it because you genuinely want to help, not because you want them to owe you something later. If you are improving your life, do it because you want to become better, not because you want to impress people who once ignored you. The need for recognition can quietly control your life. You begin choosing what looks good instead of what feels right. You start comparing your progress with other people. You become disappointed when nobody notices your effort. You may even stop doing good things because you feel that nobody appreciates them. This is how attachment to praise turns something positive into another source of suffering. A peaceful person learns to work without needing an audience. They can improve quietly, help quietly, and grow quietly. They do not need to announce every good action or prove their value to everyone around them. They know that not every good thing needs applause. Sometimes the strongest growth happens when nobody is watching. This does not mean you should accept being ignored or taken for granted in unhealthy relationships. Appreciation and mutual effort still matter, but your self-worth should not depend completely on whether someone praises you. If you know that you acted with honesty, kindness, patience, and respect, then you do not need everyone else to confirm it. Think about how much freedom comes from no longer trying to impress everyone. You do not have to prove that you are successful. You do not have to prove that you are a good person. You do not have to make someone regret losing you. You simply continue becoming better, because that is the life you want to live. Buddhism reminds us that praise is temporary. Today people may admire you, and tomorrow they may forget you. Today someone may appreciate your kindness, and another person may misunderstand it completely. If your happiness rises and falls with other people's opinions, your peace will always be unstable. So do good, because it is good. Be kind, because kindness makes your own heart lighter. Work hard, because your future matters. Grow, because you respect yourself. Let recognition be something you appreciate when it comes, but never something you desperately need. When you stop chasing applause, something powerful changes inside you. You become more peaceful, more independent, and more confident. You no longer need everyone to see your value, because you have learned to see it yourself. That is a deeper kind of happiness, one that does not disappear simply because nobody noticed what you did. 6. Let disappointment teach you where you were attached. Disappointment is one of the clearest signs that somewhere inside you there was an expectation. You expected someone to understand you, support you, stay loyal, keep a promise, choose you, appreciate you, or behave in a certain way. Then reality moved in another direction, and suddenly you felt hurt. Buddhism teaches that disappointment is not only something painful to survive, it can also become a teacher because it shows you exactly where you were holding too tightly. Think about the last time someone disappointed you. Maybe they promised they would be there for you, but when you needed them, they disappeared. Maybe you gave them your time, loyalty, and support, but they did not return the same energy. Maybe you expected someone to understand your feelings without explaining them, but they did not. Maybe you thought a relationship would last forever, and one day it ended. In moments like these, the mind immediately says, "They should not have done this," or "This was not supposed to happen." Sometimes those feelings are completely understandable. People can behave selfishly, carelessly, dishonestly, or unfairly. Buddhism does not ask you to pretend that harmful behavior is acceptable. But after recognizing what happened, there is another question you can ask. What was I expecting that made this hurt even more? Maybe you were expecting someone to never change. Maybe you were expecting loyalty from a person who had already shown you many times that they were unreliable. Maybe you expected gratitude because you had done so much for them. Maybe you expected an apology because you believed they would eventually understand how deeply they hurt you. Maybe you expected life to reward you quickly because you had been patient, kind, or hardworking. The problem is not that you hoped for something good. Hope is natural. The problem begins when hope quietly turns into a demand. Instead of saying, "I hope this person stays," the mind begins saying, "This person must stay." Instead of saying, "I hope they understand me," you begin thinking, "They must understand me or I cannot be at peace." Instead of saying, "I hope life works out this way," you begin believing, "Life has to happen this way for me to be happy." That is where attachment begins. Buddhist teachings remind us that life is always changing. People change, relationships change, circumstances change, plans change, emotions change, and even our own desires change. When we demand that something temporary remain exactly as we want it, suffering becomes almost unavoidable. We are trying to hold still something that was never designed to stay still. Imagine standing beside a river and trying to keep the same water in front of you. The water continues moving no matter how badly you want it to stay. You could spend the whole day becoming angry with the river, asking why it refuses to remain the same, but the river is simply doing what rivers do. Life is similar. Everything continues moving. Many disappointments become heavier because we are not only experiencing what happened, we are also fighting the fact that it happened. Someone left, and instead of accepting that they left, we spend months asking why they could not have stayed. Someone betrayed our trust, and instead of learning from what they showed us, we keep replaying how they should have behaved differently. Something ended, and instead of allowing ourselves to heal, we keep mentally returning to the version of life we wanted. This resistance can create more suffering than the event itself. Acceptance does not mean saying, "What happened was good." It means saying, "What happened is real, and I will stop fighting reality inside my mind." That difference is important. You can accept that someone betrayed you without saying betrayal is acceptable. You can accept that a relationship ended without saying the relationship meant nothing. You can accept that someone cannot give you what you need without believing they are a terrible person. Acceptance simply means you are no longer wasting your energy demanding that yesterday become different. When disappointment appears, instead of only asking, "Why did they do this to me?" try asking, "What is this showing me?" Maybe it is showing you that you expected too much from someone who repeatedly gave you very little. Maybe it is showing you that you ignored warning signs because you were attached to who you hoped they would become. Maybe it is showing you that you were giving far more than you could comfortably give because you expected the same sacrifice in return. Maybe it is showing you that your happiness had become too dependent on one person. These realizations may be uncomfortable, but they can make you wiser. Sometimes disappointment teaches you to lower an expectation. Sometimes it teaches you to strengthen a boundary. Sometimes it teaches you to stop chasing someone. Sometimes it teaches you to communicate more clearly. Sometimes it teaches you to walk away. And sometimes it teaches you that there was nothing more you could have done, and that your only task now is to let go. This is why disappointment can become useful. Consider how often we expect people to understand what we never clearly communicate. We stay quiet about what hurts us, but expect them to notice. We never explain what we need, but become angry when they do not provide it. We assume that because we would behave a certain way, another person should behave the same way. But people do not live inside our minds. They have different experiences, priorities, emotional abilities, and ways of seeing life. Something that seems obvious to you may not be obvious to them. Something that feels deeply important to you may not carry the same meaning for someone else. This does not mean accepting disrespect. It means learning the difference between an expectation and a clear agreement. Instead of silently expecting people to know what you need, communicate. Instead of assuming they understand your boundaries, explain them. And after you communicate clearly, pay attention to what they do. If someone repeatedly ignores what you have clearly expressed, disappointment is no longer only about misunderstanding. Their behavior is giving you information. At that point, wisdom means believing what their actions are showing you. Many people stay trapped because every disappointment is followed by another excuse. Maybe next time they will change. Maybe they were just stressed. Maybe I expected too much. Maybe, if I explain it one more time, they will understand. Compassion is important, but compassion without wisdom can become self-abandonment. You can understand someone's struggles and still recognize that their behavior is hurting you. You can know why someone acts a certain way and still decide not to stay close to them. Understanding does not require you to tolerate everything. This is another lesson disappointment can teach. Sometimes the person is not changing, but you need to change your expectations and your distance. Instead of expecting someone unreliable to suddenly become dependable, stop building important parts of your life around their promises. Instead of expecting someone emotionally unavailable to give you constant reassurance, recognize their limitations. Instead of repeatedly expecting honesty from someone who continues lying, protect yourself accordingly. This is not bitterness. It is clarity. Buddhism teaches us to see things as they are. When we see clearly, we do not have to become angry at everyone who cannot meet our expectations. Sometimes, people simply cannot give what we want from them. They may not have the maturity, awareness, willingness, or capacity. You can spend years trying to force something out of someone that they do not have to give. Or you can accept the truth and free yourself. Think about how much suffering comes from the sentence, "But they should be different." Maybe they should be. Maybe you are completely right. But if they are not different today, your peace cannot depend on waiting for them to become that person. You have to work with reality as it exists now. This is especially important when it comes to apologies. Many people cannot move forward because they are waiting for someone to apologize. They believe, when they finally admit what they did, then I will have peace. But what happens if that apology never comes? Will you carry the pain forever because another person refuses to give you one sentence? Some people know they hurt you, but will never admit it. Some will justify what they did. Some will rewrite the story so that they are the victim. Some may genuinely not understand the damage they caused. If your healing depends completely on their apology, you have given them control over when your suffering ends. Buddhist detachment invites you to release that control. You can desire an apology without requiring it for your healing. You can say, "I wish they understood what they did, but I will not wait forever for them to understand before I allow myself to move forward." That is powerful. The same principle applies to closure. People often believe closure must come from the person who hurt them. They want one final conversation, one clear explanation, one answer that makes everything make sense. Sometimes that conversation helps, but sometimes it never happens. And even when it does happen, the answer may not satisfy you. Closure is often not something another person gives you. It is something you create by accepting that you may never receive every answer you wanted. You decide, "I know enough to move forward." That is detachment. You stop searching for one perfect explanation that will remove all pain. You accept that some chapters end with unanswered questions. Disappointment can also reveal when you have attached your self-worth to other people's behavior. Someone does not choose you, and you think you are not good enough. Someone stops talking to you, and you begin questioning your value. Someone criticizes you, and you allow their words to define how you see yourself. But another person's decision is not always a measurement of your worth. People reject things for many reasons. They have their own preferences, wounds, limitations, fears, and priorities. Not every rejection is proof that something is wrong with you. If someone cannot appreciate you, that does not automatically make you unworthy of appreciation. If someone leaves, it does not mean you are impossible to love. If someone misunderstands you, it does not mean you must spend your life proving yourself to them. The disappointment may simply be teaching you that you were looking outside yourself for confirmation of something you needed to understand within yourself. Buddhism encourages awareness of this attachment. Notice when your mind says, "If they choose me, I am worthy." Change it to, "I am worthy, whether or not this particular person chooses me." Notice when your mind says, "If they praise me, I am successful." Change it to, "I can value my effort even when nobody notices it." Notice when your mind says, "If they stay, I can be happy." Change it to, "I can appreciate their presence without making my entire happiness depend on it." These changes may look small, but they transform your relationship with disappointment. You stop seeing every painful event as proof that life is against you. You begin seeing some of them as invitations to become less dependent, more aware, and more emotionally free. Another attachment disappointment often reveals is attachment to timing. You expected something to happen by now. You thought you would have a better career, stronger relationship, more money, more recognition, or a clearer direction. You compare your life to the timeline you created years ago, and because reality does not match it, you feel like you are falling behind. But life does not always follow our schedule. A delayed outcome is not automatically a failed life. Sometimes the disappointment comes from the distance between where you are and where you believed you should be. Buddhist wisdom reminds us to return to the present. You can work toward a better future without hating where you are today. You can have goals without turning them into conditions for happiness. Instead of saying, "I will finally be happy when this happens," learn to say, "I will continue working toward this, but I will not postpone my entire life until I receive it." This is a very important form of detachment. You still care, you still work, you still try. But you stop demanding that life deliver exactly what you want, at exactly the time you want it. And when disappointment comes, you do not immediately treat it as the end. Sometimes what feels like a closed door today protects you from something you cannot yet see. Sometimes losing one opportunity creates space for another. Sometimes a person leaving forces you to discover strength you would never have developed while depending on them. You do not need to pretend every painful event is secretly wonderful. That can become another form of denial. You simply need to understand that disappointment is not always the final meaning of the story. There may be more ahead. This is why Buddhism encourages patience with change. When something painful happens, the mind often tries to predict the entire future from one difficult moment. A relationship ends, and you think, "I will always be alone." A plan fails, and you think, "Nothing ever works for me." Someone disappoints you, and you decide, "Nobody can be trusted." These conclusions are usually created by pain, not wisdom. One disappointing person does not represent every person you will ever meet. One failed plan does not define every future opportunity. One difficult season is not your entire life. Allow disappointment to teach you without allowing it to make you bitter. There is a difference between learning and hardening. Learning says, "Next time, I will pay attention to patterns." Hardening says, "I will never trust anyone again." Learning says, "I need stronger boundaries." Hardening says, "I will never let anyone close." Learning says, "I cannot control everyone." Hardening says, "Everyone will eventually hurt me." Buddhism encourages wisdom, not emotional walls. You do not need to become cold to become protected. You simply need to become more aware. The goal is not to expect absolutely nothing in the sense of having no standards. Healthy relationships require standards. You should expect basic respect, honesty, and responsibility from the people you choose to keep close. But there is a difference between having standards and trying to control outcomes. A standard says, "If someone repeatedly disrespects me, I will create distance." Attachment says, "This person must change so I can remain close to them." A standard gives you responsibility for your choices. Attachment tries to make someone else responsible for your peace. That difference can change your life. When disappointment comes, take a moment before reacting. Instead of immediately sending the angry message, replaying the situation all night, or making a permanent decision while emotions are high, observe what is happening inside you. Ask yourself, what exactly hurts? Then ask, what was I expecting? Then ask, was that expectation clearly communicated, realistic, and supported by this person's past behavior? Finally ask, what can I control now? Maybe you can have a conversation. Maybe you can adjust an expectation. Maybe you can create a boundary. Maybe you can stop chasing an explanation. Maybe you can forgive. Maybe you can leave. Maybe you simply need time. These questions turn disappointment into awareness, and awareness gives you choices. Without awareness, you keep repeating the same emotional cycle: expectation, disappointment, anger, forgiveness, new expectation, another disappointment. With awareness, you can interrupt the pattern. You begin understanding that peace does not come from making everyone behave correctly. Peace comes from knowing how to respond when they do not. This is one of the deepest lessons of detachment. You cannot guarantee that nobody will disappoint you. You cannot guarantee that every relationship will last. You cannot guarantee that everyone will recognize your value. You cannot guarantee that every good action will be returned. You cannot guarantee that life will always be fair. But you can learn not to build your entire happiness on those guarantees. You can love people while remembering that they are human. You can trust while still observing behavior. You can hope without turning hope into a demand. You can give without keeping score. You can forgive without forgetting what the experience taught you. And you can walk away without carrying hatred. The next time someone disappoints you, do not only ask what they did wrong, also ask what the experience is teaching you about yourself. Maybe it is showing you where you need stronger boundaries. Maybe it is showing you where you need to communicate. Maybe it is showing you where you have been expecting too much. Maybe it is showing you that you have been ignoring reality. Maybe it is showing you that you are stronger than you thought, because even after disappointment, you are still here. Let the pain make you clearer, not colder. Let it teach you where you were attached, where you were expecting too much, and where you were giving away control of your peace. Then begin releasing those expectations one by one. You can still love, you can still trust, you can still hope. But now you understand that your happiness cannot depend on everyone behaving exactly as you wish. People will sometimes disappoint you. Plans will sometimes fail. Relationships will sometimes change. Life will sometimes refuse to give you what you expected. But none of those things have to destroy your peace. When you learn from disappointment, instead of living inside it, you become wiser. You stop demanding that people become different before you allow yourself to heal. You stop waiting for apologies before moving forward. You stop asking the past to change. You stop trying to control what was never yours to control. And slowly, disappointment loses its power over you. It becomes information. It becomes experience. It becomes wisdom. Most importantly, it becomes a reminder that peace begins when you release the belief that life and people must always meet your expectations before you can be happy. 7. Expect less from the world and more from yourself. There is a kind of expectation that can make you weak, and there is another kind that can make you strong. Expecting the world to always understand you, support you, reward you, and treat you fairly can make your peace depend on things you cannot control. But expecting yourself to remain calm, responsible, aware, and disciplined can help you build a life that does not fall apart every time someone disappoints you. Buddhism teaches us to understand the difference between what belongs to us and what does not. Other people's choices do not belong to us. Their opinions do not belong to us. Their loyalty, attention, timing, emotions, and decisions are not completely under our control. But our response belongs to us. Our words belong to us. Our actions belong to us. The way we protect our peace, choose our boundaries, and continue after disappointment is our responsibility. This is where real strength begins. You cannot control whether someone respects you, but you can control whether you keep accepting repeated disrespect. You cannot control whether someone understands you, but you can communicate honestly and clearly. You cannot force someone to stay in your life, but you can decide not to abandon yourself when they leave. You cannot make everyone appreciate you, but you can learn to appreciate the person you are becoming. Many people spend years expecting the wrong things. They expect someone to change. They expect someone to apologize. They expect family members to finally understand them. They expect friends to always remain loyal. They expect their partner to know what they need without being told. They expect hard work to bring quick results. They expect life to reward goodness immediately. When those things do not happen, they feel angry, betrayed, or defeated. Buddhist wisdom invites us to turn that attention inward. Instead of asking, "Why are people not giving me what I expect?" begin asking, "What can I expect from myself in this situation?" Can you expect yourself to remain respectful even when someone is rude? Can you expect yourself to walk away instead of begging for attention? Can you expect yourself to keep your dignity when someone rejects you? Can you expect yourself to tell the truth even when lying would be easier? Can you expect yourself to protect your peace instead of returning to the same situation that keeps hurting you? These are expectations that build strength because they are connected to your own choices. One of the biggest mistakes we make is waiting for other people to become better before we allow ourselves to become peaceful. We think, when they stop treating me this way, I will finally feel better. But sometimes they do not change. Sometimes the same person keeps repeating the same behavior for years. If your peace depends on their transformation, you may spend years waiting. At some point, you must stop asking when they will change and start asking what you will change. Maybe you need to stop explaining yourself repeatedly. Maybe you need to stop answering every message immediately. Maybe you need to stop giving unlimited chances. Maybe you need to stop going back simply because you miss someone. Maybe you need to accept that loving someone does not always mean they should remain close to you. This is expecting more from yourself. It means refusing to live as a victim of every external event. That does not mean pretending you are never hurt. It means understanding that even when something hurts you, you still have choices. You can choose whether to stay. You can choose whether to react. You can choose whether to keep arguing. You can choose whether to keep waiting. You can choose whether to keep allowing the same pattern. Buddhism places great importance on awareness because awareness creates space between what happens and how you respond. Without awareness, you react automatically. Someone ignores you and you chase them. Someone insults you and you insult them back. Someone leaves and you immediately decide you are not worthy. Someone criticizes you and you spend the whole day trying to prove them wrong. With awareness, you can pause and say, "This happened, but I still get to choose what happens inside me next." That small pause is powerful. You may not control the first feeling that appears. Hurt may come, anger may come, fear may come, disappointment may come, but you can decide whether you feed those feelings for hours, days, or months. Expect yourself to notice when your mind is creating more suffering than the situation requires. Sometimes someone says one sentence to you and the sentence lasts 10 seconds. But you replay it for 10 days. The original event was short, but the mind continues creating pain long after the moment has passed. Buddhism teaches us to observe this. The mind loves repetition. It wants to return to the argument, the rejection, the betrayal and the insult. It imagines different responses. It creates conversations that never happened. It keeps asking why. You cannot always stop the first thought, but you can stop giving every thought your full attention. Expect more from yourself here. Expect yourself to recognize when thinking is no longer solving anything. There is a difference between reflection and rumination. Reflection asks, "What can I learn from this?" Rumination asks the same painful question again and again without moving forward. Reflection creates wisdom. Rumination creates exhaustion. You do not have to spend your life thinking about what someone did, simply because what they did was wrong. At some point, protecting your peace becomes more important than proving the details of the story. This is also true when it comes to approval. The world will not always clap for you. People may misunderstand your decisions. Some may criticize the boundaries you create because they benefited from you having none. Some may call you distant when you stop being available every second. Some may call you selfish when you finally start taking care of yourself. Some may dislike the version of you that no longer says yes to everything. If you expect everyone to approve of your growth, you may never grow. Expect less approval from the world and more courage from yourself. You do not need to become rude or arrogant. You simply need to understand that not everyone will understand every decision you make. Sometimes protecting your peace will disappoint people who were comfortable with your lack of boundaries. That does not automatically mean your decision is wrong. Ask whether your choice is honest, respectful, and healthy. If it is, you do not need unanimous approval. This is one of the most freeing lessons you can learn. Another area where people expect too much from the world is fairness. We want life to be fair. We want good people to always receive good things. We want dishonest people to face consequences quickly. We want our effort to guarantee results. We want love to guarantee loyalty. But life does not always follow this pattern. Sometimes a good person is treated badly. Sometimes you work hard and still fail. Sometimes someone less prepared receives the opportunity you wanted. Sometimes you do everything you can to save a relationship, and it still ends. When this happens, expecting fairness can turn into resentment. Buddhism does not tell you to stop caring about justice. It teaches you not to make inner peace completely dependent on life becoming fair. There will be situations you cannot correct. There will be people who never understand what they did. There will be moments where you never receive the outcome you believe you deserved. In those situations, expect yourself to keep moving. Expect yourself to remain grounded. Expect yourself to continue living according to your values, even when life does not reward you immediately. This is very difficult, but it creates a different kind of confidence. You begin understanding that your character is not something you use only when life is easy. Patience matters most when things are slow. Discipline matters most when motivation disappears. Compassion matters most when someone is difficult. Self-respect matters most when you are tempted to accept less than you deserve, because you are afraid of being alone. Strength matters most when there is no guarantee that things will improve quickly. This is why expecting more from yourself does not mean demanding perfection. It means expecting effort. You will still make mistakes. You will still react badly sometimes. You will still become attached. You will still feel disappointed. You may return to situations you promised yourself you would leave. You may seek approval, even after deciding you no longer need it. That does not mean you failed. Buddhism does not require perfection. It requires awareness and practice. When you notice yourself repeating an old pattern, begin again. Expect yourself to return. Return to your values. Return to your awareness. Return to your boundaries. Return to the present moment. This is more realistic than expecting yourself to never make another mistake. People often become harsh with themselves when they hear messages about responsibility. They think expecting more from yourself means constantly criticizing yourself. But harshness is not the same as discipline. You can hold yourself accountable without hating yourself. You can say, "I handled that badly, and I will do better next time," without saying, "I am a terrible person." You can recognize that you ignored a red flag without calling yourself foolish for loving someone. You can admit that you stayed too long without spending years punishing yourself for it. Healthy responsibility says, "What can I learn?" Unhealthy self-judgment says, "How can I attack myself for what happened?" Buddhist practice encourages the first. Expect more wisdom from yourself, not more cruelty. Another powerful expectation you can place on yourself is the expectation that you will not beg for what should be freely given. You should not have to beg someone to respect you repeatedly. You should not have to beg someone to care whether they hurt you. You should not have to beg for basic honesty. You should not spend your entire life convincing someone that you deserve to be treated with dignity. Sometimes people remain in painful situations because they expect the other person to eventually understand their value. They keep explaining, they keep proving, they keep giving more. They believe, if I love them enough, eventually they will see. Sometimes they do, sometimes they do not. You cannot build your life around that possibility. Expect yourself to know when enough is enough. This does not mean leaving every time someone makes a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. The important question is whether the person takes responsibility, tries to repair the damage, and changes the pattern. A mistake can happen once. A pattern keeps happening. Expect yourself to learn the difference. You can forgive a mistake and still watch the pattern. You can accept an apology and still notice whether behavior changes. Words matter, but consistency matters more. This is how you protect yourself without becoming suspicious of everyone. Expecting more from yourself also means becoming comfortable with solitude. Many people tolerate unhealthy relationships because being alone feels more frightening than being mistreated. They know the situation is damaging them, but they think, at least I have someone. This is where attachment becomes very dangerous. If you are terrified of being alone, you may accept almost anything to avoid it. You may tolerate disrespect. You may chase people who repeatedly reject you. You may stay in friendships where you are constantly ignored. You may keep returning to relationships that destroy your confidence. Buddhism teaches that solitude can become a place of clarity. Being alone does not automatically mean being lonely. Sometimes solitude is where you finally hear your own thoughts without everyone else's opinions. It is where you remember what you enjoy. It is where your nervous system becomes calmer after too much drama. It is where you learn that your life does not end when someone leaves. Expect yourself to learn how to stand alone when necessary. Not because you should reject people, but because your fear of solitude should never become the reason you accept poor treatment. When you know you can survive being alone, your relationships become healthier because you stop holding people through fear. You can say, I want you in my life, but I do not need to destroy myself to keep you here. That is a powerful form of detachment. Expect less permanence from people and more stability from yourself. People will come and go. Some relationships may last decades. Others may last months. Some people will enter your life for a particular season. Trying to make every connection permanent creates unnecessary suffering. Instead, become the person you know will remain with you through every chapter. You. Take care of that relationship. Speak to yourself with respect. Keep promises to yourself. Do not constantly betray your own needs simply to keep someone else happy. If you continually abandon yourself to keep other people close, eventually you will feel empty even when surrounded by people. Expect yourself to remain on your own side. This does not mean always believing you are right. Sometimes being on your own side means admitting you were wrong and correcting your behavior. Self-respect is not defending every mistake. It is caring enough about yourself to become better. Expect yourself to tell yourself the truth. If a relationship is unhealthy, admit it. If your habits are harming you, admit it. If you are holding on to someone who clearly wants distance, admit it. If you are waiting for validation from someone who has repeatedly refused to give it, admit it. Truth can hurt, but denial usually hurts longer. Buddhism teaches clear seeing because freedom begins with reality. You cannot release what you refuse to admit you are holding. So be honest. Where are you still expecting too much from others? Who are you waiting to change? Whose apology are you waiting for? Whose approval still controls your decisions? Which promise have you heard many times without seeing action behind it? These questions are not meant to make you bitter. They are meant to return your power to you. When you see where your expectations are attached, you can begin releasing them. Expect less from people reading your mind. Communicate. Expect less from words. Observe actions. Expect less from promises. Watch consistency. Expect less from applause. Build self-respect. Expect less from perfect circumstances. Build adaptability. Expect less from life becoming easy. Build a stronger mind. This is how you move from dependence to inner stability. You stop saying, I will be okay, when everything outside me becomes right. You begin saying, even when things outside me are uncertain, I can still choose how I live. That does not mean you will feel peaceful every second. There will be difficult days. There will be moments when you miss someone. There will be nights when old memories return. There will be moments when you wish things had happened differently. Detachment does not remove emotion. It removes the belief that emotion must control your entire life. You can miss someone and still not contact them. You can love someone and still know they are not good for you. You can feel disappointed and still continue your day. You can feel lonely and still refuse to return to disrespect. You can feel anger and still choose not to send the message. This is self-mastery. The feeling exists, but you are no longer forced to obey it. Expect more of that from yourself. Expect yourself to feel without becoming controlled by every feeling. Expect yourself to pause before reacting. Expect yourself to remember what the experience taught you. Expect yourself to choose long-term peace over short-term emotional relief. Sometimes sending that message gives relief for 5 minutes and creates another month of confusion. Sometimes returning to someone stops loneliness for one evening and restarts the same painful cycle. Sometimes arguing gives you the satisfaction of saying everything you wanted to say, but leaves your mind disturbed for days. Wisdom asks you to think beyond the immediate emotion. What choice protects tomorrow's peace? That is a powerful question. Expect yourself to ask it more often. Another thing you should expect less from is certainty. Many people cannot move forward until they know exactly what will happen. They want to know whether a relationship will work, whether a decision is correct, whether a new path will succeed, whether leaving will make life better. But life rarely gives complete certainty before action. Sometimes you have to move with incomplete information. You look at the pattern, you listen to your values, you make the best decision you can. Then you accept that the future remains uncertain. Buddhism teaches us to live with impermanence rather than trying to eliminate it. Expect less certainty from the world and more courage from yourself. You do not need to know exactly what comes next to take one healthy step today. Sometimes your responsibility is simply to choose the next right action, then another, then another. Over time, these choices build a different life. Expect less from quick results as well. People often make a good decision and immediately expect to feel better. They leave an unhealthy situation and expect instant peace. They start meditating and expect immediate calm. They set boundaries and expect everyone to respect them. They begin working on themselves and expect their old pain to disappear quickly. Growth is rarely that fast. You may make the correct decision and still feel sad. You may set the right boundary and still feel guilty. You may leave the wrong person and still miss them. You may choose yourself and still wonder whether you made a mistake. These feelings do not prove your decision was wrong. Sometimes they are simply part of adjusting to change. Expect yourself to be patient with your own healing. Do not return to what hurt you just because healing feels uncomfortable. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar peace. Give yourself time. Expect more consistency from yourself than immediate perfection. This is how change becomes real. One calm response will not transform your life. One boundary will not transform your life. One meditation will not transform your life. But repeated choices begin changing who you are. Every time you choose not to chase, you become less dependent. Every time you choose not to react immediately, you become more aware. Every time you honor a boundary, you strengthen self-respect. Every time you continue after disappointment, you prove to yourself that you can survive change. These small actions slowly build inner stability. Eventually, something changes. You stop expecting everyone to understand you. You explain yourself once when necessary, then you allow people to think what they want. You stop expecting everyone to stay. You appreciate those who are present and release those who choose another path. You stop expecting constant praise. You learn to recognize your own progress. You stop expecting life to avoid difficulty. You begin trusting your ability to meet difficulty. And when you reach that point, people have less control over your emotional state. Their presence can bring happiness, but their absence does not erase your identity. Their praise can feel good, but their criticism does not automatically destroy your confidence. Their love can be precious, but you do not abandon yourself to keep receiving it. This is the balance Buddhism points toward. Do not become someone who expects nothing because you have become bitter. Become someone who expects less because you understand reality. People are imperfect. Life is uncertain. Everything changes. Knowing this does not make life meaningless. It makes appreciation deeper. When you stop demanding permanence, you value the present more. When you stop demanding perfect people, you appreciate sincere effort. When you stop demanding that every day be easy, you become grateful for peaceful days. And when you stop expecting the world to protect your peace, you finally begin learning how to protect it yourself. So expect less from strangers, expect less from applause, expect less from promises without action, expect less from people becoming who you want them to be, expect less from life following your exact plan. But expect more from yourself. Expect yourself to observe, expect yourself to learn, expect yourself to communicate clearly, expect yourself to walk away when necessary, expect yourself to forgive without becoming foolish, expect yourself to love without losing yourself, expect yourself to keep going when plans change, expect yourself to return to peace after difficult moments, not perfectly, but consistently. This is where true happiness becomes possible. You are no longer waiting for everyone around you to behave correctly before you allow yourself to live. You stop handing your peace to people and asking them to protect it. You stop telling life, "I will be happy only when you give me everything I want." Instead, you build something stronger inside yourself. You become grateful when people treat you well, but you do not become helpless when they do not. You enjoy love without trying to own it. You accept support without becoming completely dependent on it. You appreciate praise without needing it to know your worth. And when disappointment comes, you learn from it instead of allowing it to define you. That is what it means to expect less from the world and more from yourself. It is not a life without standards. It is a life where your standards begin with your own behavior. You cannot demand loyalty from the whole world, but you can be loyal to your values. You cannot demand honesty from everyone, but you can live honestly. You cannot demand kindness from every person, but you can refuse to let their cruelty turn you cruel. You cannot demand that everyone protect your peace, but you can become wiser about what you allow into your life. And when you learn this, happiness becomes much harder for the world to take away. Your peace is no longer waiting inside someone else's message, apology, approval, or decision. It begins living inside the way you choose to meet life. Expect less from what you cannot control. Expect more from the person you are becoming. Let people be responsible for their actions and become responsible for your own peace. That is not selfishness. That is maturity. That is detachment. And that is one of the clearest paths toward a happier and freer life. At the end of the day, peace does not come from controlling people. It does not come from making everyone understand you, appreciate you, stay loyal to you, or behave exactly the way you want. Real peace begins when you stop giving other people so much power over your emotional state. Buddhism teaches that suffering often grows from attachment, and attachment grows when we turn our hopes into demands. We begin saying, "They must stay, they must understand, they must choose me, they must repay my kindness, they must treat me the way I treated them." The more conditions we place on our happiness, the easier it becomes for life to disturb us. This is why detachment is so powerful. Detachment does not mean that you stop loving people. It does not mean becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. It means you learn to love without losing yourself. You learn to care without controlling. You learn to appreciate people without believing they belong to you forever. You allow relationships to bring joy into your life, but you stop making them the only source of that joy. People will sometimes disappoint you. Even people you love deeply may fail to understand you. Someone you trusted may change. Someone you supported may not support you when your difficult moment comes. Someone you expected to stay may leave. Someone you forgave may repeat the same behavior. These experiences can hurt, but they do not have to destroy your peace. The lesson is not to expect everyone to become perfect. The lesson is to become wise enough to see people clearly, Pay attention to patterns, listen to words, but watch actions. Appreciate kindness when it appears, but do not become dependent on it. If someone repeatedly shows you that they cannot give you what you need, stop demanding that they become a different person. Accept reality, adjust your expectations, protect your boundaries, and continue forward. Sometimes the deepest peace comes when you finally stop asking someone for something they have already shown they cannot give. You stop asking the emotionally unavailable person for constant reassurance. You stop asking the dishonest person for promises. You stop asking the selfish person to suddenly think about your needs. You stop asking someone who wants to leave to keep choosing you. You simply accept what their actions are showing you. And acceptance can hurt at first, but eventually it becomes freedom. You begin to understand that you do not need every person to understand you. You do not need every relationship to last forever. You do not need every kind action to be returned. You do not need everyone to recognize your value. Your value does not disappear because someone failed to see it. Your kindness does not become meaningless because someone failed to appreciate it. Your loyalty does not become foolish simply because someone failed to return it. Your love was still real, even if the relationship ended. But every experience should teach you something. If you gave too much while ignoring yourself, learn balance. If you trusted words while ignoring patterns, learn to observe. If you stayed too long because you feared being alone, learn to become comfortable with your own company. If you depended too heavily on someone's attention, learn to create happiness within yourself. If you kept waiting for an apology, learn that your healing does not require another person's permission. This is how pain becomes wisdom. Buddhism does not ask you to run away from every difficult feeling. It asks you to observe those feelings without allowing them to control you. Sadness may come. Disappointment may come. Loneliness may come. Anger may come, but feelings are temporary visitors. You do not have to build a permanent home for them. Feel what you need to feel, then release what you no longer need to carry. You do not have to replay every betrayal. You do not have to win every argument. You do not have to answer every insult. You do not have to prove your worth to someone committed to misunderstanding you. You do not have to chase people who have already chosen distance. Sometimes the most peaceful response is simply accepting what happened and continuing with your life. That is not weakness. It requires strength to stop chasing closure. It requires strength to walk away without revenge. It requires strength to forgive without returning to the same unhealthy situation. It requires strength to love someone and still admit that they are not good for your peace. The world often teaches us that holding on is strength. Buddhism reminds us that sometimes letting go requires even more strength. Let go of the need to be understood by everyone. Let go of the need to be chosen by everyone. Let go of the belief that every person who enters your life must stay. Let go of the expectation that kindness will always be returned immediately. Let go of the need to control how other people see you. And let go of the idea that happiness will finally arrive when everyone around you starts behaving correctly. Because if your happiness depends on perfect people and perfect circumstances, happiness will always remain fragile. Instead, build a peace that can survive change. Build routines that belong to you. Create goals that give your life direction. Take care of your mind when nobody else notices you are struggling. Learn to enjoy simple moments without needing an audience. Sit quietly. Walk somewhere alone. Read something meaningful. Take care of your body. Work towards something important. Notice the sky. Listen to the silence. Become familiar with your own presence. The more comfortable you become with yourself, the less desperate you become for others to complete you. And this changes your relationships in a beautiful way. You stop loving people from fear. You stop thinking, please stay because I cannot survive without you. Instead, your love becomes, I appreciate you, I care about you, and I am grateful you are here, but I will not lose myself trying to keep you. That is a healthier kind of love. You stop giving because you want someone to owe you. You give because you choose to give. You stop being kind because you want praise. You become kind because kindness reflects your character. You stop improving because you want someone to regret losing you. You improve because your own life deserves your effort. This is what happens when you stop living for external validation. Your confidence becomes quieter. Your happiness becomes simpler. Your relationships become more honest. And your peace becomes much harder to disturb. There will still be difficult days. Detachment does not mean nothing ever hurts you again. You are human. You will still miss people. You will still feel disappointed sometimes. You will still wish certain situations had ended differently. But now you know something important. Pain does not always mean you need to go back. Missing someone does not mean they belong in your life. Loving someone does not mean you must accept everything from them. Forgiving someone does not mean giving them unlimited access to you. And being alone does not mean something is wrong with your life. Sometimes solitude is where you rebuild yourself. Sometimes losing someone teaches you how much of yourself you had forgotten. Sometimes disappointment reveals where your expectations were too heavy. Sometimes an ending creates the silence you needed to finally hear yourself again. So when something leaves your life, do not immediately assume your happiness left with it. Your happiness is bigger than one person. Your future is bigger than one relationship. Your identity is bigger than one rejection. Life continues, and so can you. Remember the 7 lessons. Stop writing invisible contracts for people. Give from your heart, but stop secretly demanding repayment for every good thing you do. Appreciate people without possessing them. Enjoy their presence. Love them sincerely. But understand that nothing in life is guaranteed to remain unchanged. Never hand someone else the job of keeping you happy. Build a life that still feels meaningful when nobody is praising, calling, or validating you. Accept people according to their patterns, not your hopes. Stop waiting for words to become reality when repeated actions are already telling you the truth. Do good without needing recognition. Let your character be enough, even when nobody notices your effort. Let disappointment teach you where you were attached. Every painful expectation can show you something about what you were demanding from life. And finally, expect less from the world and more from yourself. You cannot control other people's actions, but you can become responsible for your boundaries, choices, healing, and peace. This is not about lowering your standards. It is about removing unnecessary demands. There is a difference. You can still expect respect in your relationships while understanding that not everyone will give it. If someone repeatedly refuses to respect you, you do not need to beg them. You simply decide what access they should have to your life. You can still desire loyalty without believing you can force someone to be loyal. You can still desire love without chasing someone who refuses to give it. You can still hope for good outcomes without allowing one bad outcome to destroy you. That balance is where freedom begins. The happiest person is not necessarily the person who receives everything they want. Often, it is the person who needs fewer things to happen before they allow themselves to be at peace. They can appreciate what comes without clinging to it. They can release what goes without believing their life is over. They can enjoy people without trying to own them. They can experience disappointment without turning it into lifelong bitterness. And they can wake up each day knowing that their peace is something they are responsible for protecting. So from today, try carrying fewer expectations. When you do something kind, do not immediately ask what you will receive in return. When someone loves you, appreciate it instead of constantly fearing when it will end. When someone disappoints you, learn from it instead of letting the disappointment define your future. When someone leaves, let yourself feel the loss, but remember that your life continues. When people misunderstand you, explain yourself when necessary, but do not spend your entire life trying to control their opinions. And when life does not follow your plan, adjust without believing everything is ruined. This is the practice. Again and again, release. Release the expectation, release the need to control, release the demand for perfect answers, release the people who clearly want to leave, release the resentment that keeps you emotionally connected to what already ended, release the need for applause. Release the belief that your happiness is waiting somewhere outside you. Then return to yourself. Return to your breath. Return to the present. Return to what you can control. Return to your values. Return to your peace. Because peace is not something another person gives you forever. It is something you practice protecting every day. Stay happy, but do not make another person responsible for keeping you happy. Stay detached, but do not confuse detachment with becoming heartless. Stay loving, but do not lose yourself inside love. Stay kind, but keep your boundaries. Stay hopeful, but accept reality when it speaks clearly. And expect nothing in the sense that you stop demanding that life and people follow the exact script you created in your mind. Appreciate what comes. Learn from what hurts. Release what leaves. Protect what matters. And keep moving forward. One day, you may look back and realize that the people who disappointed you taught you independence. The situations that ended taught you acceptance. The rejection that hurt you taught you self-respect. And the loneliness you once feared taught you how to enjoy your own company. Then you will understand something very powerful. Happiness was never hiding inside another person's hands. Peace was never waiting inside someone's apology. Freedom was never dependent on everyone treating you perfectly. It was always something you could begin building within yourself. Expect less. Appreciate more. Hold people gently. Let life change. Keep your heart kind, your eyes open, and your peace protected. And when something outside you changes, remind yourself that you do not have to change into someone bitter because of it. You can remain peaceful, you can remain grateful, you can remain loving, and most importantly, you can remain yourself.